This message is a public service announcement for any of you who are on the verge for some reason of giving up because you have not yet maybe acknowledged or accepted that maybe you're a square peg being forced to conform into a round hole. And it took you a few years to realize, wait a minute, this is fucking stupid. I don't fit in this. I don't fit in this. And I think you may have directly or indirectly let those around you know that, hey, I visibly don't fit in this. And people are just basically telling you, well, that's because it's your fault. Like, you just need to lose your squarishness. You, even though you were born a cube, you need to conform and become roundish. It's your fault. You're not and allowing yourself to surrender to change and to be in where you're around. And you know, some of y'all have always known that was bullshit, and you've decided to maybe, you know, build a square hole, you know, build your own path. And I think at this point some of y'all are discouraged because it's like, is it even worth it? Like, you know, like, there's all these circle holes that I'm basically indirectly, no one's like putting a gun in my head, but there's really not much else that supports me as a cubicle existence. And you know, I think some of you may be kind of discouraged. Some of you may even be ready to conform and do cube surgery to become a circle and identify as a circle. Now let me just tell you, you're wasting your fucking time. Don't do that. Please let this be a definite encouragement to not hold out. You're not waiting for anything. I hope this switches your thinking. You are not waiting, right, for things to change so that you can be you. You will be you regardless. Okay? It's the other way around. You're allowing those around you to switch up to get to know you. Okay? Many strong minds live this, but you know, not everyone has a fixed or strong mind. Some people's minds are mutable and they're easily influenced by those around them. Some people's minds are cardinal and one track minded and they only go one direction. And so, you know, regardless of what quality or strength of mind you have, this message goes out especially for relationships. You see, this archetypal pseudo romantic culture that has been inundated since birth and shoved in your face. You can't go anywhere without this whole rhetoric of Joan and Joe falling in love, bumping uglies, and having a family. Ever since you were born, whether they change representation of it from heterosexuals to homosexuals, people thought, oh, well, we just need to be more inclusive. You all got played. They're still pushing this pseudo intellectual narrative of romance in your face. So many of you feel like you're supposed to like fall in love and get with someone, and you don't realize that idea has been incepted in your minds since children. The few of you who would see through that were made fun of and ridiculed for being not an idiot or a conformist. That's not to say that human beings, like most animals, are not wired for companionship of some form or to sexually bump uglies with other people. People are wired to do what they do. It's just you may not necessarily accept yet that the whole cultural implication and expectation of romance and of just certain sexual cues and how things go has been inundated, like you've been indoctrinated since birth. If you don't believe me, there is not a single movie, book, television show, even within work, advertisement, saying that does not involve the stereotypical romantic union between a man or a woman. You can't watch a single television show without there being a trope about, at some point, someone developing a love interest. You've been lied to that this is necessarily some part of your being. I'm not saying this for those of you who are lovebirds, son. Like, it temperamentally, some people are romantic, some people are purely passionate. You know what I'm saying? And that's a great thing. Like, if life is a romance to you, you have every right to live that life. What people may not recognize is that represents a ridiculously small percentage of the world population. Like, niggas has been getting finessed out here. It's like you've only been shown one love language when there's more than 20. Okay, but like, you're only shown one, and it makes you think that something's wrong with you because you just don't get jiggy with that, because you feel like there's just this circle hole and you're more of a cube or square. Like, the way you even get involved sexually, that has nothing to do with everything that society has expected you, as far as courting, as far as dating. Even the deviation of romance now is only trending because of how different it is from what people are used to, which should be a good thing, because the only thing constant is change. But here's the thing. The reason why I'm bringing up romance and dating is because there's never going to be another you. Like, there's only going to be you. Like you bring to the table the uniqueness of you. So the whole notion that you have to date someone like how someone else dates someone, or you have to give in to a societal expectation of traditional norms that have been dying for the past decade, it's retarded. And so I'm making this message because some of you are so discouraged, and you really, for some reason, believe, and I'm not even going to act like you're dumb for believing this. Like, it's a good reason you believe it, but you may believe that you're not desirable. You may believe that this society and culture you're in, there's no place for love for you here. And I'm here to remind you, it's a fucking lie. There's actually thousands of people who don't even know you exist, and if they knew, they'd make a beeline to you. So, like, really be mindful of the fact that the perception of love and romance versus actual love is two completely different things, and people can project all sorts of insecurities of what I'm saying, of what they feel about it. You're a bunch of weak bitches, okay? But for those of you who actually understand what I'm talking about, okay, don't feel like you have to conform to this bullshit at all. You're literally here to stand out. You're the reason why years later people will now see a path you paved, a path that didn't exist until you created it, because you decided that you're way too valuable to conform to bullshit, to old people's expectations and norms. You don't have to create anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. You have to be you. And there's only one you. Yeah, they're imitators, but like, there's only one real you. So you need to be prepared to champion your own way to do things. This is the revolution of the individual. And you know who's the only people who are gonna actually, you know what I'm saying, ridicule you or make you feel weird? Weak bitches. That's it. There's not a single person secure in themselves that will undermine your willingness to pioneer your own unique way. They will challenge it because iron sharpens iron, and there's nothing wrong with challenging something, but no secure person is going to be insecure in seeing another person. Let's just talk about it. Let's use our mind. And seeing another person be secure in themselves. Only weak bitches do that. So if you care about what weak bitches say, I mean, there's a whole culture about people who care what other weak bitches say. And that's for them. That's not for you. And I'm saying this because I'm feeling this powerfully in the collective. Jupiter is back into Pisces. So as we're closing out this Jupiter cycle, you may not realize that you created the new world you want to be in. As we start this new cycle, stuff that didn't work is going to start magically working. Well, it's not that it's magically working. You spent that whole cycle being yourself. And you weren't just being yourself. You created a whole way. And this is what I'm talking about in my Jupiter Pisces video, where I'm talking about, or when I eventually do that too, when I spoke on recently about you creating your own legend. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're dealing with people who swear that they dislike you, but they're really obsessed with you. Because if they're gonna be honest with you, they can't go a single day without thinking about you. Even if it's to think about how much they don't like you, sounds like they're obsessed. I'm just gonna be honest. Anybody secure in themselves would not waste a second of their valuable time on someone that does nothing for them. I'm sorry. So, like, don't entertain people who put on airs and act a certain way, but really they weak bitches and they obsessed. Don't go out of your way to conform and take the perfect nature of what you were born as to fit in whatever people say, whatever stuff is, even if it's stuff I'll disagree with. I don't have to agree with how you live, but you don't have to fit to conform to my standards either. It works that way too. Okay, I know there's a bunch of stuff I say that certain people don't agree with. You can take it that way too. Let's talk about it. So other than that, don't conform. I really feel this with love. Like, some of y'all believe that you can't come into, like, some of y'all are conflicted. Like, you want to do something, but you only know how to do it in the way that you've been conventionally taught. And it's like, you're the one who's going to create the new way. And who cares if you have to try countless times before you actually nail it? And who cares if you get ridiculed by doing it? They can only ridicule you because you do it. They're basically your children now, because they wouldn't even have the opportunity to do that if you didn't create that. You're literally giving value. So it is what it is. That was a little boss talk right now. But in fact, I'm gonna have to do a whole boss talk series. But outside of that, be very mindful of not conforming. And it's not even about not conforming. And it's not even as simple as just being yourself. This specifically tying to it. And you really even want to get to a level where some people may even get offended that you're even trying to change status quo. Let them be weak bitches. Let them, like, let your own uniqueness reveal who's a weak bitch. Period. Because if they weren't a weak bitch, instead of complaining about it, they would confront you about it and actually heart to heart genuinely come into understanding, instead of just being threatened by what they don't understand because they're a weak bitch. Okay, you're not a weak bitch. You're a legend. And so do not conform to this bullshit. A lot of people don't have the guts to admit that it is what it is. And I'm not trying to scoff at conventional notions of romance. I am a little bit. But I'm basically pointing out how, as flawed as it is, most of it is based off of fairy tales, based off of fantasy, is based off of fallacious reasoning, obviously, because the irrational factor of love and emotions are in play. But if we could just kind of take it real, if that's your thing, that's your thing. If that's not your thing, stop trying to conform to that. Stop trying to act like you have to do it that way. Some of you are very conflicted, and, like, be willing to you don't have to struggle, but be willing to forge that different path. Be willing to do it your own way, and don't take no for an answer. That's what quitters do. All right. My message here to tell you this was that you already did this. So now that I'm saying forge your path, here's the good news. What do you think you did the past 10 years? So come and get this W, because now you're going to experience over the next cycle the world you created being yourself. Throughout that Jupiter cycle from 2010, you created that. So when you're so close to completing, now that Jupiter's so close, you may feel like, is it worth it? Right? You may feel like, you know what? Maybe I should just conform. Don't conform. I really just wanted to make that. Don't conform. I don't care how weird and crazy you're made out to look. Don't conform. Be an innovator instead. And then people could be talking about how they doubted you, but you were right. God's